Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number 125 of Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long, and we are coming to you once again from the international headquarters of GSM Services right here in downtown Gastonia. We simply believe in discussing more of the reasons why Gaston's great. We are highlighting what we're going to call, and our guest corrected me properly, that this is a mission of First Methodist Church here. It's called Camp Sunshine. It's something I wanted to talk about for a long time. I've been very familiar with it, but it might be one of those good-kept secrets here in our county, something that's really going on. But we have Beth Patton with us today. Beth is the director for Camp Sunshine, a fellow church member of mine. And Beth, it's great to have you on, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So we're going to get right to it as normal. So first, we subject our guests to a simple question about, before we get into the topic, maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself, anything that you'd like to share.
I've been at First United Methodist Church for 46 years and have
So
served...
you were 2 when you started at First Methodist?
No, actually after I got married. And I have twin boys, and I have 4 grandchildren and a husband, Davis Patton.
You don't spoil those grandchildren, do you?
Not at all. Not at all.
Just like my mother, that sends them back and spoils them and sends them back. Of course, ours, like yours, ours were old enough that doesn't really apply much anymore.
Yeah.
We've already messed all that up, so it's too late if they're too spoiled. So, again, we're talking about this great mission at First Methodist Church called Camp Sunshine. So the first question is just simply, for our listeners who might not know, just give us a quick, what is Camp Sunshine? Maybe any history that you have, or anything in general. Again, because I have to remember that everybody listening doesn't know about it like I do. Okay, so just anything you'd like to share there about what exactly is Camp Sunshine.
Camp Sunshine is a Christian camp. It is a free camp for children in the Gaston community who otherwise would not be able to have a vacation, much less attend free camp. It is sponsored by First United Methodist Church and has been around for over 40 years.
Okay.
And we serve rising 3rd through 5th graders. It is Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 2:30, and usually it is the week before July the 4th. We get our children. They are identified through school counselors within Gaston County Schools and the Boys and Girls Club. One thing that makes our camp unique is that we use our First United Methodist Church vans and buses, and we actually go out into the community and pick up these campers at their homes and return them back home each afternoon. We also, in going to their homes, we can, if they have any other needs, that First United Methodist Church can attend to their other needs. The children are fed breakfast, lunch, and snacks. And some of the daily activities for the children include singing, crafts, pool and lakefront activities, zip line, gem mining, and archery. And this is held at Crowder's Springs and Crowder's Ridge Camp.
Out at Crowder's Mountain, right?
Out at Crowder's Mountain. It is funded by donations from First United Methodist Church and individual donations which are given through Gaston Community Foundation Run for the Money. We also received a grant this past year from Gaston Community Foundations, which has allowed us to expand. Camp Sunshine is run by adult volunteers from First United Methodist Church and other community volunteers, as well as youth volunteers. It seems like once we have these volunteers, they come back year after year after year. They never leave. So it's a very rewarding experience. The children are provided backpacks filled with school supplies, games, toys by a family that donates all of the items on the last day of camp. And each year, all the Camp Sunshine students are invited to a Christmas party given by the youth at First United Methodist Church. So it's after they finish their week at camp, we're not through with them.
Right, yeah.
They are eligible to come for 2 years, and then after those 2 years, we try to get other campers so they can have an opportunity.
So, Beth answered every single question I had, so we're going to go ahead and close out this episode. So, do you roughly, typically, how many kids there are year to year?
We are trying to grow that number. Last year, we had around 45 campers.
Okay.
This year, our goal is 70 campers.
Okay.
So, our grant has enabled us to grow that number for this year.
How many volunteers typically? Or do you know?
We have probably 25 volunteers, 30 volunteers, as many as we can get.
Sure.
We have a nurse that comes. We have an ambulance and first responders that are there all the time. So we are well covered.
Yeah, I mean, after 40 some years, I have not. I've been indirectly involved with it. I mean, my wife and kids years ago, when they were coming through the youth program, were involved, and I know they've participated in the Christmas party as well through the youth. That's First Methodist. So I've seen firsthand. And to your point about volunteers coming back, right? It seemed like when I first started getting involved in the community, I kind of had this. Well, should community work really be fun? I mean, yeah, but you know what? It is. Those things are so rewarding, right? And it's okay to feel good about the community's work that you do. I used to think that maybe you shouldn't. You should be just focused, and we got to serve people, and I've just learned that I often get more out of it, I think, than the people or the things that I'm involved with. So again, excuse me. So how about yourself? How did you get involved in? Now you're the director. How did that come about?
I started out being the person who registers all the campers, go into the public schools and talk with the counselors, ask them if they can recommend any students that they feel like would benefit from the camp. So I started out that way and had been doing that for 5 years, and then we needed a new director, so I just stepped into that position. Now I'm doing both.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's one thing I do have enjoyed. I mean, I've been in First Methodist, so Alex is 25 to 26 years, roughly. We moved to First Methodist when we were about to have our first child because we wanted a strong youth program, and we've enjoyed that for 25 plus years now. But First Methodist seems to be volunteers. They step up typically, right? And I mean, you're a good example of that. Is that something like year to year? Do you struggle to get enough volunteers? Is that a need that you currently have, or
it is a need that we currently have, and didn't really run up on this until COVID, of course.
Yeah.
Good old COVID. And now, we have a lot of people that view our services online or not in person as much, and it's a little bit more difficult to get volunteers.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have found it interesting that there seems to be still week to week, it seems like, and it's not just First Methodist, it's in general, more people maybe are still doing online stuff, aren't they?
Right.
In the traditional in-person church stuff. Well, it'll be interesting to see like this weekend. We're recording this on Wednesday. What's today? The 27th. So it's the Wednesday before Easter. So hopefully we'll be full Sunday, right?
Oh, being Easter, I think we will.
Yeah, I hope so. Do you take volunteers? I'm assuming that don't have to be First Methodist members,
Right.
correct?
Right. We get volunteers from the community and have a lot of volunteers from the community. First Presbyterian Church actually started the camp, and they only did it for 3 years, and then they approached us in 1979 if we wanted to take over the camp.
You know what? I don't think I knew that.
We still have some of the First Pres folks that did it, back in the day, and that they still want to come forth and volunteer. So we do have people from that church, and we just have people from all over the community that have heard about it and want to be a part of it.
Right. Yeah, I know I've been asked about it before from someone that was not at First Methodist, but they had heard about it, but they didn't know, they didn't know what it was. So that's another reason for, us. It's so great to have you on. So hopefully there's there may be someone out there who hears this and immediately wants to volunteer, especially when it's youth related. That's something that even here at GSM, we try a lot of things we're involved with. We do focus on youth. We just think that at times be an underserved area of our community. So Beth, in your time, especially with you helping register kids and finding children that could benefit from Camp Sunshine, I think our listeners like to hear maybe examples, or is there an example or something you can think of something you saw, without sharing any specific names, of course, but a story or something you can relate, an anecdotal story that, man, this is the point, of having the camp.
When the students first arrive at camp, they don't talk that much because they're trying to figure everything out, and they're trying to look around to see who all the other students are. They see some of their friends from school, but they're learning a lot of new faces, and it's just unreal how they have come from the first day to the last day of camp.
Okay.
They have grown in their faith. They have grown in their self-esteem, and it shines through them. And that's probably what has made the biggest impact on me. I have seen some of these students who didn't even know who Jesus was when they entered that camp, and when they leave, they're ready to be baptized. Can we come to your church and be baptized? And we have. There have been many a student that has come through there that has turned their life over to God, which is so rewarding.
I mean, ultimately, that's the point of being a Christian, isn't it?
Yep. We just try to spread the love of God and love on them, and it really shows. And
model that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, sometimes Naomi, I've talked more than once on this podcast, because faith has been. We've had a lot of faith organizations on, and faith groups, and oftentimes I find myself saying, "Well, I don't want to." God, I think He's talking to me, but I don't want to hear it. I don't want to go out. I don't want to go out and do that. That's not what I meant,
Yeah.
So that's why a mission like this is so good, and it requires leaders and individuals like yourself. This is a podcast about Gaston County, and why is Gaston County great? So what would you say, in your experience, why is Gaston County in our community better because Camp Sunshine's here and the work that you and the church are doing?
Well, I think that it just provides these students with opportunities, and we've even had, when we go out to their home, sometimes their parents will come out and say, I went to Camp Sunshine.
Really?
So we're seeing the next generation
Wow.
come through and seeing how this just changed their family dynamics.
Okay, yeah. So, my experience would be in some of the organizations I'm involved with, there's oftentimes this might be the only opportunity, right, to get exposed, not just to the faith side, but just other kids from other schools, other adults that are caring about the community, and and maybe interaction with fire and law enforcement, and again, just opportunities that they may not otherwise have.
They even have some of the students who have been through our camp, when they get to be high school age, they want to come back and volunteer,
right. Okay.
and we let them.
Absolutely.
And they're a great mentor for those other students who are coming through. So that's kind of interesting too.
Yeah, I think the biggest benefit for me and my family personally would, no question, be our girls being in that position to mentor and shepherd some of these younger kids, right? Because they would have been middle school, maybe early high school, and mentor them and shepherd them through the camp, right? That's just a great. That's a good interaction in my view to mm-hmm. when our youth are able to do that. So, it's been going 40 plus years. I think it's pretty settled now, right? Where it's not Camp Rotary anymore, but the Crowder's camps. didn't something still go on though through COVID, or did we do it at the church or somewhere? It seemed like. So my point is just we didn't just say we're not going to do it.
Right. We had to reduce our numbers.
Yeah, I remember that.
We went down to, they would allow us to only have 25.
Okay.
That allowed us to have very small groups, and we spread out all over the camp so that everybody was not jumbled up together. So yes, I think there was only 1 year that we were not allowed to have it, period. And the rest of the year we have gone on just with smaller numbers. And ever since then, we've been trying to build our numbers back up. And this year will be a good number. Yeah,
all the things I'm involved with in the community, some things have come back 100%. It seems like some have come back 80%. Some things are still just struggling. And it's been interesting for me to see, just to see that, how we don't like to say that word anymore, COVID, around here, just because it was so, I don't know, just strange. And I'll just leave it at that. So looking ahead, are there any future plans? Is it just going to try to continue to do it? And maybe you mentioned having some growth. Is there anything else there that is planned for the future?
No, just trying to continue to grow our numbers is probably our biggest goal.
Okay. What about, you mentioned volunteers as a need. What about on the financial side? I mean, we unapologetically let our organization talk about what are their financial needs still, and how can what maybe there's a listener out there that might be willing to help with that.
With our numbers growing, of course, we need more bathing suits, more food, more everything for the campers. And we do rely on our donations, especially through the Run for the Money through Gaston Community Foundation.
And so that's coming up in 2 or 2.5 weeks from now too. So so the timing will be good for this. Yeah. Because it'll be released tomorrow, right? So, that's great. I appreciate you mentioning that because we haven't talked about that much recently. We try to mention that a few episodes leading up to because so many organizations that we've talked to are involved with Run for the Money. That's a great way to get some matching dollars. And if you're not familiar with how that works, if you can donate to the run, you can specify you want the money going to Camp Sunshine, and then the Community Foundation will match part of that. It's just a way to get some free money, so to speak, on top of your typical donation. And also, if somebody's not familiar with Crowder's Camps, if you've never been out there, I mean, these are 2 legit locations. I mean, it's everything that you would think of a summer camp. I don't know, for some reason I would say far off, but it's right here in Gaston County, right? You got the lake, and there's just, it's everything you would imagine having in a summer camp up in the mountains or out at the coast. So that's why it's such a great location. And one region you need some of those, you mentioned fire and the nurse, and because they're not just sitting around talking. Right. They're actually doing activities that you mentioned earlier.
And they have cabins. This is usually an overnight camp, a week-long overnight camp, but they let us actually have it as a day camp for our students. So,
all right. So we've touched on a lot of stuff here. Is there any questions I haven't asked or anything that I missed? Again, because I'm going to remind you beforehand that I am far from a professional interviewer, but this is all about, Camp Sunshine. I mean, before we finish, we'll make sure our listeners know where to go find more information, where to send donations, how to get in touch with the camp about volunteering, anything like that. We'll make sure we touch on all that before we're finished. But is there anything that that I haven't asked that I should have before we move on to these all important questions that we're getting ready to and make you answer?
No, I think that we've answered most of it. We have a website, our church does, First United Methodist Church, and Camp Sunshine is on that website right now as far as volunteering, who to get in contact with, and you can always call me. Okay.
All right. Well, we'll make sure we get all that information out, and we'll put it in the show notes, and that'll be kind of the last thing that we make sure we touch on. So, however, here's the all-important question that we make our guests endure, because this is a podcast about Gaston County, and this is what everyone at First Methodist wants to know. Hopefully your family already knows the answers to these questions, but maybe they don't. And maybe we can figure out some way to embarrass Davis while we're doing this on some level. So we're going to start with that first question, the all-important, what is your favorite Tony's ice cream flavor?
Probably chocolate milkshake.
I got you. That's me too.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Sundrop or Cheerwine?
I like a combination of both, like a cherry sundrop.
Okay, that's we hear that every now and then, because that's kind of a Gaston County. There's several even restaurants, right? You can get that.
Yeah.
Favorite local restaurant?
Probably Webb Custom Kitchen.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it? How about favorite outdoor activity in Gaston County, or favorite park, something you like to do besides Camp Sunshine, obviously?
Well, that's right. I play golf. So there's several golf courses in Gaston County, and my favorite park would probably be Stowe Park in Belmont.
Oh yeah, right downtown.
Right downtown.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. So are you a dominant golfer? Are you with your group?
I wouldn't say dominant.
Are you the one that takes the money normally?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Okay. All right.
I love to play, though.
Just curious. Yeah, it's a great just outdoor activity, isn't it? So this is actually the most important question. UNC Duke or NC State?
NC State, go back.
You just got some applause, background noise if you were curious, because Naomi knows there's only one correct answer there. Beth, what is something very few people know about you?
Probably that I have twins.
Okay. How old are they now?
37.
Oh, sorry. Maybe I shouldn't have asked that.
Right.
How about, my oldest is 25, which is just hard to wrap my head around. So how about a book or a blog or article or something that you might recommend to our listeners?
I just finished reading the book, The Winemaker's Wife.
Okay.
It is about World War II and the role of the winemakers, what role they had in the war.
Okay.
So it was very interesting.
Yeah, I love reading anything, frankly, around World War II, but history or historical fiction related to it. There's so many good stories related to all that. So again, we appreciate you enduring those Gaston County related questions, which are super important. So, few more questions, and we'll wrap this episode up. Again, remember, this is a podcast about Gaston County, why Gaston County is such a great place, which, obviously I'm a total homer for Gaston County. But besides Camp Sunshine, why would you say Gaston County is such a great place?
It just has so much to offer. We have the Shield Museum, our libraries, which do the children's story time, which I take my grandchildren to, lots of parks, trails to walk, the Greenway. We can climb Crowder's Mountain. It offers Daniel Stowe Botanical Gardens, and at Christmas time you have the McAdenville Lights, you have White Water Center, and of course, as you had mentioned, Tony's and Black Sonaro's Barbecue. We have the little theater and our fish camps. There's golf courses. I use the Y to swim and to work out, and it's a state-of-the-art Y.
It sure is, yeah.
And we also offer activities on the South Fork River, paddling down the river. And you can do water sports on Lake Wiley and, of course, the farmers market.
Did you work for the Chamber of Commerce? That was fantastic.
I've lived here all my life, so I know a lot.
Michael Applegate on here, between the Chamber of Commerce and the Travel and Tourism, you've got a job probably there. That was terrific. So, but this has been really good. Okay, and I'm a huge fan of, obviously, First Methodist Church and Camp Sunshine, and so actually, you know what? I almost skipped the most important question. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself there, Naomi. You gotta help me. And I say this every episode. This actually is my favorite question. So. You about got off the hook there. So, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
To probably start giving back to the community at an earlier age, because our community has provided so much for me growing up here, and I probably would have started at a much earlier age.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't think we've had that specific answer in 125 episodes, but when I was 20, I had no concept of that.
No.
I was just living in my own little selfish world, and just reaping the benefits of all that, as opposed to having any perspective on how we have such a great community with all those things you listed, right? And the people, and it just takes experience and time, unfortunately, to get that perspective. That's a great point, because I don't know. early 30s before I started realizing, you know what, maybe I need to, there's more than just work and home.
Well, I think you're so consumed with your children at a young age.
That's fair too.
You have
Yeah.
them, and
Absolutely.
And that takes up a lot of your time.
Yeah.
So it is difficult, but I think we all can carve out a little bit of time.
Yeah, we can. How do you line up those priorities, and priority management is an interesting concept we could talk about for hours probably. But again, now this has been really good. I got that question out of the way. So where can listeners go to learn more? You mentioned the church website, which I think is fumcgastonia.org.
Org.
Okay. I always get that confused, but it gets me to the right place. And so, yeah, you can find it on there. If somebody wanted to donate, where would they can send that through the church and just make sure it's noted for Camp Sunshine?
They can, or like I said, they can do it donate through Run for the Money.
Absolutely. Again, so Run for Money is really a great avenue to do that. Again, if you're not familiar with that, you can go to the Community Foundation, Gaston County Community Foundation website, which I think is actually cfgaston.org. As well. So that I would encourage you to go there, or you can just Google that and get there as well. And all the information is on how to get involved with that or donate through that is on that website as well. As a matter of fact, I don't remember what episode it was. We've had the Community Foundation on a couple times, and you can go back and find one of those episodes when we talked a little bit about the Community Foundation run there as well. So any last words before we close this episode out?
No, I appreciate you having me, and hopefully more people will understand a little bit more about Camp Sunshine and what it's all about.
Well, again, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the work that you do, not just for Camp Sunshine, but obviously that's what we're talking about today, but you know, everything you've done through First Methodist, being a lay leader in the church is also a big job, and it impacts a lot of people positively. So I'm grateful for that as well. So again, Camp Sunshine is a great mission of First Methodist Church. And so if anybody's out there listening, wants to get involved, volunteer, help with the mission, please take the time to do that. And oddly enough, I don't have a book recommendation this week, Naomi, but I do have a little quote that I try to share something or thought each week. And this one comes, I may be mispronouncing his name, but Hans Hansen, I think is how I pronounce this. And I'm not sure what inspired me to do this one, and maybe without getting too in the weeds, maybe the kind of the society we live in today, some things that I see going on. But he said, it takes nothing to join the crowd. It takes everything to stand alone. Sometimes for us to get things accomplished, you got to go against the crowd sometimes. You got to do something and stand up for it. And, I bet somewhere years ago at First Presbyterian Church, Beth mentioned that's who started Camp Sunshine. Somebody stood up and said, we got to do something here. And I have no idea the full story behind that, but that's exactly what often happens when you have great missions or organizations or projects or something that help our community. It was an individual who stood up and said, you know what, we're going to do something about this. And that's often how it happens. So, to our listeners out there, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode. Please continue to spread the word if you can about the podcast. And please don't hesitate to contact us here at podcast@gastonsgreat.com. We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at the website, gastonsgreat.com, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And please follow us on all our social media platforms. And as Naomi reminds me, please give us a good 5-star rating as it helps get the podcast noticed. Thanks again to Beth Patton for being our guest today. And before I finish, this is actually episode 125, so this is officially what we are calling the end of season 5. But, like we really have seasons here at Gaston's Great, I'm not so sure, but 125 is a good number to stop on. We've been recording pretty much for 6 months straight. So we're going to take a little break for the next couple of months, but be on the lookout for June-ish time frame, early June maybe, because we already have some other scheduled recordings. So we do have other guests coming in, but we're just going to take a little break because I'm tired. And Naomi's tired of coming in here every week and doing these recordings. So again, but we appreciate it, you guys very much for listening. And as a reminder, Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by Naomi Hunt and Amy Anderson from GSM Services. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.